All right, I am pleased to be joined by Harris Oates of the DraftId Podcast. Thanks for coming on, Harris.
Yeah, thanks for having me, JJ.
Yeah, and again, don't forget to check out his podcast. Again, the links will be down in the description below. And of course, everything, like all social media handles and stuff like that will as well be on the description down below. If you, before we start talking about week 6, if you want to talk more about your podcast, all that good stuff.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'll go ahead and give a quick plug to the podcast. Me and my buddy Sawyer have been doing the DraftId podcast this season. We've naturally been keeping up with one a week, come out every Friday morning around 6 a.m. So ready for the commute on Friday and kind of get your weekend started with some football action. And we're covering mostly just the NFL action, but also some college stuff and naturally the NFL draft. So yeah, tune in if you want more football action.
All right, sounds great. And again, thanks for coming on. Let's talk about what happened in week 6. And it happened in week 6. Let's first start off with: are the Ravens, or do you think are the Ravens the best team in the AFC?
That's a great question, and I kind of change my answer every week this year. It's been so up and down with all these teams. The short answer is there's a lot of very good teams in the AFC this year, and a lot of them have some really young quarterbacks, and I think they're really probably 5 or 6 capable teams of winning a Super Bowl at this point from the AFC. But certainly, the Ravens are hot. They're on a roll, 5-1. They've had some huge wins so far. But I think I wouldn't count out the Bills. I know they had a tough, heartbreaking loss against Tennessee on Monday night and all that. But Bills are a very solid team. They still have the best defense in the NFL, both on a passing and total yards as well as total points this year. And then obviously Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and so on and so forth. Another team not to sleep on is obviously the Chiefs. I know everybody's getting down on Patrick Mahomes, but he's just kind of had a sluggish start. But they have a bad, skeptical defense, but they're not a bad team, and they obviously have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best quarterback. But there's a lot of teams alive, and then the Titans naturally come to the mix this week after a huge win against Buffalo. Tractor Cito, Derrick Henry is looking like the MVP so far.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with Tennessee, but with what the Ravens did to the Chargers, and I think a lot of people were saying the Chargers could have been the best team in the AFC. And Lamar Jackson, I'm a huge fan. He didn't have the best game, but that defense sure improved. Chuck Clark is a very good safety. I feel like people kind of forget about him. But yeah, I think the Ravens are the best team, especially what they did to the Chargers. We'll see what happens with the Bengals because that's going to be a big game. I kind of wish that game was prime time. And I think the Bengals are a year ahead of schedule. I didn't think they'd be this good this year. I thought they would be probably like 8-9 or something like that. And they still could happen. It still could happen like that. But I think the Bengals are ahead of schedule. Not sure they're going to make the playoffs, but right now it looks like they're going to. Let's now go to the altogether in the NFL. Now, the Cardinals are the only undefeated team, and they just blew out the Browns on Sunday. Do you think the Cardinals are the best team in the NFL right now?
No. I'll be frank with you. I don't think they're the best team in the NFL. I think they're a good team. I think they're definitely going to be a playoff team. I'm not sure if they're even going to win a playoff game. This is a young team. Kyler Murray's obviously playing great, and Hopkins, it's good to see that have both of them going, and even AJ Green's looking pretty good as well. But no, I don't think this is a team that can win a Super Bowl. I'm not sold on Kingsbury yet. They've had a couple, pretty easy opponents. I know they played the Jaguars early on. Vikings are, beating in a close game off that field goal. I guess missed by the Vikings, I think, back in week 2. But yeah, I don't think they're, contenders, to be honest. And maybe they'll prove me wrong. They've got a couple more games this season. They have to play the Texans this week, which they should dominate, but it's the NFL. Don't be super surprised if somehow the Texans come up on the Cardinals somehow. Every team in the NFL loses games. There's never been a perfect season really, except for I guess that one Dolphins team back whenever. In the modern NFL, it just doesn't happen, and every team's going to lose a game this year. I can guarantee you that. And yeah, I don't think the Cardinals are really one of the best teams in the NFL. I think I'm not even sold they're going to win their division, to be honest. I think the Rams are really good. And obviously, who knows with San Francisco and then Seattle. I know Russ is out, but there's a lot of season left. We were only 6 games through the season, and the 17-game season. So I don't think they're the best team.
Yeah, that's interesting because I just think that right now that they're the best team at the moment. I'm not sure they will end up winning that division with how good the Rams are. And before the season started, or after the Rams made that trade for Stafford back in January, February, I can't remember which month it was, but I thought the Rams, they were immediately my Super Bowl pick, and I still have them in the Super Bowl, at least in the NFC. But yeah, I mean, I think the Cardinals, as of now, are the best team. It's just, like I said, there's a lot left to go, and what we got, 11 more games left. So
you don't want to peak too soon. We've seen it far too often. Somebody peaks in October, and it's all downhill after that, and they can't get their swagger back. It's typically the Cowboys. Could be the Cardinals this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And the Cardinals are still young. I feel like they're kind of like the Bengals, too, where I don't know if they're peaking too early or what, but I feel like both those teams, well, not necessarily the Cardinals, but I feel like we've seen this with the Cardinals before, where I think they started off last year really hot, and then they end up not even making the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. But I do think Kyler Murray should be in the MVP discussion. And I know it's a little early, and some people don't like talking about this, but do you have an MVP right now, or who do you think the front runner is? Or, I mean, what's yours? Okay, you can continue.
I think there's a couple guys right now that are in contention, and I'll kind of outline each one that I think right now it's super early. But Tom Brady's obviously having an amazing season, and he's the GOAT. So if he's having a great season, he's naturally going to be in that discussion. I think Dak was hot early. I don't think he's really in the race. I don't think he's going to keep that up, but who knows? Kyler Murray, certainly. Lamar Jackson, absolutely, just because he means so much to that Baltimore team. They're a team with not too many offensive superstars besides him. They really rely on Lamar a lot. But, if I had to really pick one, right now, I'd have to say Derrick Henry. And I know it sounds crazy, but he is absolutely the most valuable player on that Titans team. And he is the sole reason they are 4-2 right now. He is the sole reason they beat up on Buffalo this past week. And I mean, the stats support it, and the analytics support it. I mean, if you go ahead and look, he's a top 5 PFF running back this year, which is absolutely insane considering that he has nearly 180 touches. And the crazy thing about it is, like, when he goes on in the game, he just gets better, and they're also feeding him the ball more than anybody when they're trailing. Most of his stats are coming when trailing, and most teams rely on passing the ball, and they don't. The Titans don't. They rely on running the ball even from behind, and that just shows you, how valuable he is to that organization. And like I was saying, it gets better as the game goes on. He gets better every season as well. I mean, it's insane. He hasn't had a single bit of regression his whole career, and I mean, if you go and look at his yards have gone up every year, his touchdowns have gone up every year. And I think his yards per attempt, I think maybe went down last year, but I mean, that's kind of a fluke stat just because of the amount of times he's getting the ball. But I absolutely think that if he can keep up this historic pace, that he absolutely deserves to be the MVP, and it shouldn't just be a quarterback award. Honestly, I mean, give it to the guy that's most valuable. Don't give it to the most valuable quarterback.
Yeah, and the last time the running back actually won an MVP was back in 2012 when AP won it. Right. And ever since then, it's just been quarterbacks. And Derrick Henry does definitely should be in the conversation. Last year, of course, he won the Offensive Player of the Year, but I mean, he rushed for over 2,000 yards. So I thought last year, well, Aaron Rodgers, of course, won it, and he had a great season. But I feel like Derrick Henry, I don't know, I think Josh Allen was the runner-up last year, but I do think Henry was kind of forgotten last year. But if he wins the MVP and he continues what he's doing this year, I would have no problem with it. But of course, right. being a Lamar Jackson fan, I'd like to see him win it twice. And he didn't have the best game against the Chargers, but what he did was great. And of course, you look at all the injuries they had. His top 3 running backs were out. Rashad Bateman, their first-round draft pick, didn't play until Sunday. And then you had Miles Boykin, another receiver. He was out for a while. And, of course, they have a lot of injuries on the defensive side. Marcus Peters is out for the year. So, right. And then, of course, L.J. Fort, too, was out or has been injured, too. So I feel like Lamar Jackson as well. Justin Herbert, he didn't have a great game, and I think he might still be a year away. But I think he was in the MVP discussion until week 6, and I think that kind of put him out. Matt Stafford has been having a great year, 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. There's
from Stafford, I know he's had some big statistical years, but I mean, getting him in the LA offense, he's absolutely going off. And one last nugget I'll give you with Henry. which is just a crazy stat that I was looking into a little bit earlier today. He has 26 red zone attempts this season, and 8 of those have gone for a touchdown. So roughly a third of his red zone attempts are going into the end zone. And I think you were saying, he won Offensive Player of the Year, didn't really get much MVP buzz. A lot of that was because Tannehill was playing great, and he's not been playing great this year. He hasn't been playing nearly as good as he has the last few years. And, like I was saying, they just rely on him so much. But, yeah, you've made some great points. Lamar's obviously one of the best and most valuable players in the league as well. But, if I just had to pick right now, I'm sticking with Henry. And I hate the Titans. I hate to say it, but I'm not a Henry fan or anything. But it's insane how well he's doing this year.
Yeah, and again, it just goes to prove you that we're still way early in the season. I feel like by week 10 or week 11, there'll only be a few people, and usually by that time, there's usually one or two MVP or there's usually only one or two candidates for the MVP. But I definitely think it's been very interesting this year because the last few years, it's always usually been one person. And I think this year we'll get more than just a few people in that discussion. But by week 10 or 11, it should be down to just a few. But we'll see what happens.
For sure.
Another team a team that has been kind of disappointing, and of course the injury bug is a huge problem right now with them. But the Cleveland Browns, they're 3-3. They got a game against the Broncos on Thursday night. I think Mayfield is now officially listed as out, so Case Keenum, I believe, is going to be starting. Do you think the Browns make the playoffs this year with all the injuries they've had to deal with?
It's a tough question. They're sitting at 3-3 right now. I think they have, obviously one of the most talented backfields in the whole NFL, but they're dealing with injuries right now, totally banged up. I mean, Chubb's out, and who knows how long Hunt's going to be out. But if you look at their losses, I mean, the Chiefs beat them week 1, Chargers beat them 2 weeks ago, and then the Cardinals. So 3 teams are probably going to make the playoffs. Now they're going up against the Broncos on a short week with Case Keenum. Who knows what's going to happen there? Usually pretty fluky. But after that, they go up against the Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, Lions, and then a crazy back-to-back with the bye in between against the Ravens, which is just, kind of a scheduling fluke. But a lot can happen. And that's going to – I'm going to tell you, when they face that first game against the Ravens, it's pretty much going to be make it or break it for them most likely. It's either going to be them having a legit chance at winning the division, or that's going to be them, trying to claw their way back in through the hunt in December. I'm not the biggest Baker supporter. I think he's all right. I don't think he's much above average, if anything. Injured or not injured, we saw that last year. He was, pretty terrible last year. Had a rough year. I guess 2 years ago, too, it's kind of a sophomore slump. I guess he went to the playoffs last year, but still statistically has been chasing that rookie season. But, yeah, I think that they probably will make it. I think they're going to get in as a wild card team. And kind of if you look at the AFC, there's a lot of really good teams. But then you start looking at the South. I mean, there's definitely not going to be a wild card team there. And then who knows what we have in the Raiders. Broncos probably aren't going to really be into it too much longer. And then when you get to the East, I mean, there's 3 teams that definitely are not going to make it, and Buffalo pretty much has that wrapped up already. So, yeah, I could see 3 teams coming out of the North for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting because right now the Steelers currently are that final 7 seed in the playoffs. I don't think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. I think Big Ben, it's probably going to be his last year, and I think he's kind of the weak point on that Steelers team. But I don't know, the Browns – it's really debatable right now because the Bengals are definitely better than I expected. As I mentioned earlier, I think they're a year ahead of schedule. I think Baltimore is going to end up winning that AFC North. But if the Browns can get a few guys back, I think they can make the playoffs. I definitely think they're better than Pittsburgh, even with all their injuries. But it's going to be tough for them, especially with how good the AFC is and how good the AFC North is. Yeah. And, of course, Mayfield, he had a great rookie year, but his second year was not good. I think he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. And then his third season was decent, but I think he was on the heels of Nick Chubb and that running game. And, of course, that defense.
Relied a lot on that run game.
Yeah, definitely. And it just – I don't know if the Browns – I think the Browns maybe make the playoffs as like a 6th or 7th seed. But it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. And it's a make it or break year for Mayfield because I think they extended his player option, but there's been talk that maybe the Browns try to make a trade for a quarterback. And I feel like Mayfield, you can pretty much put any type of quarterback in that with that Browns team, and they can probably make the playoffs with how talented their roster is. But here's an interesting rumor, and I've been hearing for a while. Do you think the Browns, if the Packers don't make the Super Bowl, Rodgers is definitely out? Do you think if the Browns have a chance, do you think they should try to trade for Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think they have a chance, and I think that's because Aaron Rodgers is never going to play in Cleveland, to be honest. I don't know Aaron Rodgers or anything, but I don't think too many NFL superstars, especially at the quarterback position, are want to go and play for one of the worst, franchises of all time historically. And I hate to say that to the Cleveland Brown fans, but it's just reality. That's why you kind of lose out on a lot of the top stars, and I know they've been doing a lot better lately, but yeah, I just don't think any chance that happens. And I also think, there's a lot of talk about this Rodgers leaving Green Bay. I mean, they could easily have another playoff run and then bring him back another year and deal with Jordan Love, because I think Rodgers pretty much is in control of where he wants to go. And if he decides he wants to stay there, he's staying there. And I don't think they have much say over that, to be frank. And that's just my take on the whole Rodgers situation. I think it's a little bit overblown by the media, because naturally when there's any bit of a story, just like they did it with Brady, they're going to hype it up. And, Brady ultimately left 2 or 3 years after that. But, I just don't know. I don't know with Rodgers. We thought he was going to retire early this season. Ended up he was just kind of trolling everyone, and he knew he was going to play the whole time. But, yeah, I don't think there's any chance that he would go to Cleveland. And I think if for some reason he went somewhere, it would maybe be to a bigger city, maybe New York Jets, or who knows. I mean, Miami Dolphins or somewhere like that. Or I don't know. There's just not too many destinations I see him going other than staying in Green Bay.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've heard so many different opinions, and I honestly think he's going to be out after this year because I don't think the Packers are making the Super Bowl. I think the Rams and the Buccaneers are better. I think they're better than the Cowboys, but I don't think they're better than the Rams or Buccaneers. I don't know. It's just debatable. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Rodgers, but I feel like him and the organization, they clearly don't see eye to eye, and I feel like eventually they're going to split up. And most good quarterbacks don't stay in the same organization for their whole career. I mean, you look at Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, they both left. I don't know where he's going. I just saw a lot of people thinking, or some people were saying that maybe Cleveland's a destination, but I mean, we'll see. Do you still think Mayfield is?
I don't think so. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Do you still think Mayfield is the quarterback for the Browns next year?
It's a great question. And I was talking about this a little bit last week. And I think my quote on that was, this is a league where if you don't bring back your Kirk Cousins, you're going to get a revolving door of Taylor Heineke's. And that's what's happened to Washington. That's happened to a lot of franchises in this NFL. Carolina's kind of dealing with it right now since Cam Newton left. You have to, whether your guy is a top 15 quarterback, if you consider him that, you're going to have to bring him back. If your guy can make it to the playoffs, you're going to have to bring him back. There's probably 5 or 6 quarterbacks right now that are capable of probably winning a Super Bowl. And then there's maybe 2 rosters that can have a quarterback that isn't capable of winning a Super Bowl to win a Super Bowl. I know that's kind of doesn't make much sense, but I mean, teams like the Rams almost won a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, and that's what I'm kind of talking about there. I think they have to bring back Baker, regardless of how he's playing. I mean, he's a guy who's thrown 20-plus touchdowns each of his years so far, and he's dealing with some injuries right now, and obviously not playing like himself. But I think they have bigger issues, and he's a guy that's gotten them there last year and could get them there this year. Maybe don't pay him Patrick Mahomes money, obviously. Don't give him the Dak contract or the Josh Allen contract or what Lamar's about to get. But if you can get him on, somewhat of a deal where you're not paying him like a top 3 quarterback in the league, then, by all means, you got to keep him. And I honestly think, if they brought in Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how much Aaron Rodgers would fit with that offense. It's kind of a ground and pound offense, to be honest. Yeah. It's not really the Rodgers type.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know what he's going to get, but he's got so many sponsorships that I think if he gets a 4-year deal for what? I mean, I don't know how much exactly he would get, but I don't think he would mind. I don't think he should be paid Mahomes money, but I feel like with how the quarterback market is, he's going to try to go for that. But if he doesn't, I mean, he's got so many sponsorship deals that he's still going to be making a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
But you just mentioned Lamar Jackson. What kind of contract do you think he's going to get? I mean, he's probably – I don't know if he's going to – I mean, I don't know he's probably going to get at least a 5-year deal. But what do you think Lamar is going to end up getting with the Ravens?
Short answer, whatever he wants. And
Okay.
he should be. He's one of the
Yeah.
best, most transcending quarterbacks in the NFL. He is an MVP. He might win another MVP this year. He's the sole reason why, the Ravens are competing. If you throw any other quarterback in that offense, they're not going to be as good as they are right now. I think it's likely going to be like a Dak Prescott contract. I don't think anybody's reaching Mahomes, and it's kind of firing back right now because look how Mahomes is doing and the criticism he's getting for a $530 million contract, and he's throwing 6 interceptions, and everybody's ready to kind of say it's a fluke of a contract, even though that's not the case. But yeah, I think whatever he wants to pay him, he's that guy. You're not going to have a better option, probably, maybe ever. He might be the best quarterback that the Ravens ever have of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a Panthers fan, and you always think you're going to get that next Cam Newton pretty easily, and you just don't. It's just not. It's a once in a lifetime type of player, and Lamar deserves whatever they'll pay him, whatever he wants to be paid.
Yeah, and I know he doesn't have an agent, and I know Mike Florio just absolutely hates that he doesn't have an agent. But it's interesting, too, because I know him and his mom do all the contract deals. I think he should be getting a Mahomes contract. I don't think he's going to get one, though, because I feel like he's going to say, you know what, I want my team to still be really good, and if I get a huge contract like Mahomes, eventually we're not going to have enough money to pay for anybody else. But it's going to be very interesting, and I'm also intrigued to see if he ever gets a lot of sponsors like Mayfield. He definitely deserves it, but it's going to be interesting how that goes. But I do think I'm with you. I think whatever he wants, the Ravens are going to give him. I mean, they gave Joe Flacco such a huge contract way back, and I definitely think Lamar Jackson is a lot better than Joe Flacco. But
I think
it'll be
if I had to put a number on, I'd say 4 years, $200 million with $80 million signing bonus, and that's just judging off of other contracts that guys have gotten. I mean, what was Dak's 4 years, $160 million, and he got 65 or something signing bonus. I mean, it's going to be north of that for sure. I can tell you that much. It's likely going to be more north of that, even if he doesn't have an agent. That's just what his worth is more than what Dak is worth, and inflation and all that.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely better than Dak, and I think he deserves more. I think he should get a lot, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do, but I definitely think he deserves, like what you were saying, anything that he wants, the Ravens should give him. So, and I know he's got some decent receivers, but I would like to see the Ravens go out there and pick up a receiver in free agency. I know he's got a great relationship with Hollywood Brown, but I feel like Hollywood Brown is more of a number 2 receiver. But we'll see what happens. I just would like to see the Ravens get a top-notch receiver. I don't think they're going to, but of course it's not in the Ravens either. But speaking of the Panthers, I know you're a Panthers fan. What have you thought about their season? Because they started off really hot, and now they've lost their last 2 straight games. I mean, what are you thinking about the season so far?
Man, it is right now. It's at a point of pain. Won the first 3 games. Didn't really play any. I mean, we beat the Saints at home. I don't think the Saints are that good of a team this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then whooped up on the Jets, and then the Texans. But then, that Cowboys game, we're looking pretty good. After the first couple of drives, you're tied at 14, and then, everything just kind of broke loose. And I know we got back into it at the end, but it was just painful. And then controlling the Eagles game and losing a game like that, was just really disappointing. And then, obviously the overtime loss against the Vikings after clawing our way back into that one. They've been 3 brutal losses in a row, and I think that losses like that can really stack up and just absolutely deteriorate your fan base, and everybody just ready to give up on you. But I try not to get too emotional into the fan base, because there's a lot of people that love to give up on them or tell them what they're doing wrong or whatnot. I just kind of like to trust the process. Long season, got 11 games left. We're playing the Giants and then the Falcons and then the Patriots. 3 teams that we can easily beat without McCaffrey. And I think that's, obviously been the biggest challenge is injuries. We lost our rookie J.C. Horn, who was lights out after 2.5 games. McCaffrey lost in that Texans game as well. It's tough. It's tough when things like that happen. And Darnold is looking like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde every week. You don't know what Darnold you're going to get. And I know he's physically very solid, but he just looks like he's seeing ghosts again a little bit. And we got to remember he's 24 years old and he's got a lot of growth ahead of him. And I think this is a team that can absolutely make it into the playoffs. You have to remember there's 7 playoff spots, and everybody's ready to give up when your team loses 3 games in a row. But I mean, that's so not the case. If you look right now at kind of how it's stacking up, I mean, you got the obvious teams: the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Cowboys, the Rams, Cardinals. Those are teams that are all kind of locks probably for the playoffs, just judging by how good they are. They all have 5+ wins. But then you look at those teams, kind of challenging each other for the last 2 spots. The Saints, a team that the Panthers have already beaten. The Vikings, a team that barely beat the Panthers without some of their best players. I mean, the Bears, you think the Bears are going to make it to the playoffs? Probably not with Justin Fields. And then Falcons, 49ers. I mean, there's just not that many teams that are that good competing for those last 2 spots in somewhat of a top-heavy NFC right now. And I think absolutely the Panthers are still in contention. They just need to get a little bit more healthy. They need to get a bounce-back win here. And I just think it's been some gut-wrenching losses, and they need to keep composure and fire back. I think they absolutely can do it. And I mentioned that loss to the Eagles. The Eagles have kind of been like the marker of, are you a good team or not? Can you beat the Eagles? Because the Eagles are not a good team, but they hang in there, and they challenge teams a lot. And, I think they're playing the Raiders this weekend. It'll be a huge challenge for the Raiders. Are they good or not yet? It'll be, kind of loser gets canceled game. But yeah, I think losing that kind of flipped around the fan base on its head. And after such a strong start, everybody was thinking Super Bowl and all that. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Let's see if we can maybe get a win against the Giants. I think Giants are going to win this game personally. I think Danny Dimes is going to get hot early in the game. And, even though they're banged up too, they need a win just as much as the Panthers do. And that's my pick. And after that, who knows? It's any man's game in the South. The Bucs are probably going to win it, but Panthers could still claw their way back into it.
All right, makes sense. And yeah, the Panthers, they're a very interesting team. Yeah, as you know, they won 3 straight, and they ended losing the Cowboys, lost to the Eagles, and then lost to the Vikings. But I mean, it was an overtime game. But anyways, I know we had a run here quickly. And before we end the interview, and again, thanks for coming on, Harris. But who do you like in the Super Bowl who do you like in the Super Bowl right now?
Great question. I haven't even thought about this yet, to be honest. There's a lot of really good teams. AFC, I'm going to go with the Bills. I just think they're the best team. I know they had a tough loss. They probably should have kicked a field goal and gone into overtime Monday night, and there would be a whole other discussion right now because they'd probably be in, I guess, first place in the AFC. From the NFC, I'm going to go with, and I want to say Cowboys, but I know they're not going to win a Super Bowl because they're the Cowboys. They're going to find a way to lose out of it. But I liked your pick, the Rams. I think the Rams are pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm going to say either the Rams or the Buccaneers, just because Tom Brady, he knows how to get to a Super Bowl. And if I had to put money on it and bet, I would say it's going to be the Buccaneers. And that's just because nobody knows how to navigate the postseason better than Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks again for coming on. And of course, I predicted mine early in this before the season started. I said the Rams and Ravens, and I'm sticking with that. And both teams are looking good right now. So yep. I'm definitely confident in my pick. But again, I would not be surprised if Brady got in again. It's Tom Brady. He's got 7 Super Bowls, and
he's the GOAT. Man. He knows how to play in January. He knows. Yeah. A lot of guys don't, but he does.
Yeah. All right. Again, thanks for coming on, Harris. And again, don't forget to check out the DraftId Podcast. Again, the links will be will all be in the description down below. All right. Thanks again for coming on, Harris, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.